Well, do you have an overly aggressive dog or a problem dog? And I know some people want to have overly aggressive dogs, but this video is not for those people. This is for people that want to calm their animal down, and it's kind of being a revolutionary approach. Maybe it's actually not a revolutionary approach, just that it's an unknown approach. But everything I just want to point out, you should do in balance because nature has a balance, the yin and the yang, and but maybe if your dog is like this and it's just all over the place, and you're like, wow, how do I control this canine or whatever? There's something else you might want to try, and I'm going to be talking about magnetic therapy, actually, to make your dog hopefully into a nice, tame, lovable pup. And you can actually go a little too far with this. Once they get up to this point, you don't want to be giving them any more magnetic therapy, provided it works. Let's me see this, but it looks like this is one of those alternative medicine. Well, let's call it not medicine, alternative energy therapies. How's that? Using magnets, and the big key though is having a correct side of the magnet. And boy, there is a lot of confusion on that, and it did confuse me. I did understand the principles as to what they were talking about, and I studied this for a number of years, but I actually only had stuff that was all pre-marked, and I did not know how to find the side of the magnet that is what the magnetic therapy people call north and south. And it's actually simple, but they got another definition than the engineers have or the regular people have. But anyway, it can actually, it can work. There's a side of the magnet called the negative energy side, or the negative, the one that, it's associated also with negative ions too. But the actual magnetization effect that's coming out of the negative side is actually going in the counterclockwise direction. It's the actual magnetism found at the North Pole, which is actually magnetized south. And so you can have a real happy puppy, and it's a balance. So if you got a problem with an animal or dog or something like that, it's too aggressive, I just want to point this out to you as to what we're going to be talking about here is how to do some magnetic therapy. But first, I'm going to get back to this. This is a picture of a compass. Usually the red needle on a compass is pointing towards north. And let's think of this red needle as it's magnetized north physically. And it's also positive. It points to the North Pole. At the North Pole, it's actually called, I hate to say this, but at the North Pole physically, geographically, on the Earth, I know the magnetic pole is in a different position than the geographic pole. I know that, but I'm saying is the North Pole, which the north pointer on the compass points to, at the North Pole, actually, the polarization of the pole is south. Now, here's the other thing where it flips again, is that the pole, it's actually magnetized south, like the way engineers and people would call it. But the people in the magnet therapy world, they actually refer to the magnetic field that is actually found at geographic north to be considered biological north. And when they throw the term north out there, they're actually talking about magnetic south. But you got to remember, this is the easy way to remember it. Usually red, like on your battery cables on a car, what does red stand for? The positive cable on your battery cables on a car. Think of this red pointer on the compass is positive magnetic force. It will attract negative magnetic force. It's the negative magnetic force that you want to use for magnetic therapy in most cases. That's the one that's kind of like healing, calmness, intelligence, calming down, and will calm your animal down. So the side, this pointer will point to the side of the magnet that you want to actually face the animal with, and you want to put like in their dog bed or something like that. And I want to get into some of these theories here from actually, just what I explained here, because Hopefully I'm not making this too complicated, but this is the best representation I've ever seen. It's actually from Soda Instruments, and they sell magnetic pulsers. Now you could probably try magnetic pulsing your dog on the north side. It's already pre-marked. But that's what they talk about. Geographic or bio-north pole is negative. See the minus sign? That's actually, engineering-wise, or what common people call it, is actually the magnetic south pole. But in magnetic therapy world, they call that bio-north pole, the exact opposite. And that's really where all this damn confusion comes in. But remember, negative actually is what you want 99% of the time against the body. And there's other things that can go on with this, but I'm going to talk about it with animals specifically. But just remember, this is the easiest way to remember it. The red pointer on the compass is positive magnetic energy. Don't even think of north or south or anything like that. Positive negative energy, positive magnetism as found on the red pointer will attract the negative side of the magnet. That's the side, the negative side of the magnet goes to the animal in 99% of the cases. So let's get on with some things here. Let's talk about, this is actually off some rare books. Actually, I'm just going to give you a couple quick little tidbits out of here. It's actually talking about excessive use of negative magnetic energy will, over a period of time, basically make the living system actually a little weaker, but although more mentally alert. So, it's a balance. So, in other words, usually an animal, if they're exposed to positive energy on the magnet side, they get more aggressive and they might be larger, but if you have a problem with that, that's not what you want. And negative energies also protect and afford health, control emotions, and the atmosphere. This actually goes for people and animals, but you got to watch, everything is a balance. But if you have a problem with a dog that, say, it's overly aggressive all the time, and you just can't do nothing with it, you might want to try using the negative energy of the magnet against the animals where it sleeps, like maybe sew it into the dog bed. And it should actually, because they repeated this experiment so many times on so many different animals. But then once the problem is alleviated or lessened, you want to back off, because all nature is a balance. Now, I know in actually conventional, whatever the heck, veterinary world, I don't even know if they do this or not, but they'll probably tell you it does nothing. They probably don't even know about this. But basically, according to the laws of nature, when you use negative, if you're a negative energy thinker, you are a reasoning, thinking, sensible, understanding person. If you're a positive energy thinker, you are unreasonable, inconsiderate, insensible person. And this applies to, animals. So that's the way it goes, man. And so actually I want to point out a little more here. The North Pole animal or rodent or dog or whatever will be more intelligent than the dull-witted, overly strong, slow-to-learn animal or rodent we have found as a result of South Pole exposure. Now, you remember when they're saying North Pole, they're actually talking negative. That's what these therapy people talk about, the negative, the north and the south, the exact opposite of the way people think of magnets. The exact opposite. They actually, when they say the North Pole, they're talking about the magnetic field that is actually found geographically on the Earth at the North Pole, which is actually south. But you got to think of it as the negative pole, okay? But if the animal, dog, rodent, whatever, they do all these exposures to all these, they tried this hundreds of times. They said this was in the results of over 300 experiments conducted within an 8-year period in their laboratories. This is actually from Rawls and Davis. Rare information. But this might be something about, if you got a problem with a dog and it's like, I can't do nothing about this dog. It's always biting people. It's doing this. It's doing that. You might want to give this a try for a while. And then, do it piecemeal and then back off once the animal has gotten calm enough, if it works. Because if you do, like I said, nature is a balance of things. Now, I think, I don't think anybody actually, any veterinary world, is actually going to tell you that this does anything, and so they'll probably not care if you try it or not. But I'm just telling you that common sense tells you nature is a balance. Too much of something, even if it's a good thing, is not good. So if you have an animal that is really, really a problem, you might want to try this with. But basically, the South Pole energies can give strength, but that could also be a problem if you have a sick animal, because the South Pole energies will give strength to the microorganisms. Now, these are some theories, but they've been tested in some of this stuff for a while, so maybe they're pretty good theories. There might be a little more than theories. But anyway, it goes on with saying the wiser, the weaker. This goes in with the proverb. Basically, that's kind of like what's working with the negative energies from the magnet, which are actually going counterclockwise from the actual face of the magnet itself. The wiser and the weaker. So, but also there's an extension of life systems to live beyond their normal life. And that's been discussed a lot, I said, in their scientific reviews and everything. So just remember this, if you want to really keep it simple, rather than just saying north and south. It's actually the negative side of the magnet and a positive side. The negative side is calmness, therapy, slowing down the growth of maybe microbes that are problems or whatever it is. That's the theory. And the positive side can make an animal or even a person more aggressive, maybe stronger, but dumber. So the magnet. So when on the compass, the red needle is positive magnet. It will attract the negative magnet side of another magnet. So in other words, the negative side of the magnet that you want to use for therapy on an animal, whatever it is, that pointer will point to it. The red pointer will point to it. That's the better way to think of it. Now, you can also go ahead and look at some other things like this. And this is actually on Soda Instrument site. And actually, if you want to buy one of their magnetic pulsars and try that, that might be something that's very useful to do too. I don't know if you want to stand there and pulse the animal for 20 minutes or something, but you could try that, and you use the north side. And it may help. It may help. So I just want to put this out because this is kind of like a rarely known thing. If you want a nice, friendly pup, and you don't have a nice, friendly pup that's lovable, and you're thinking, I want a friendly pup. I want a friendly dog. I got a dog to be nice to me. I don't want a dog doing this. I don't want a dog going, biting my neighbors and cats and everything else and doing crazy things, and I'm having a hard time controlling this dog. You might want to try this deal with the magnets. That's cheap. Now, you can go buy a magnetic pulsar from Soda. I don't know what the hell they cost. I got one from Dr. Clark's mag pulsar. It's basically about the same thing as a Soda Instruments, except it's got adjustable strength on it too. And you might want to try it. But if you don't want to sit there all day trying to pulse the animal or something, you could actually just use plain neodymium magnets, disc magnets. Make sure the negative side is facing the animal. And let me put it this way: once say it works, and you got a nice, super happy, friendly dog, and it's like, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I'm kind of like laid back, then you probably want to back off on a deal, because too much of a good thing is not good. And also what I'm saying here, even though this is not endorsed in a regular veterinary world, I guess, I think it's legit, because they did a lot of experiments on this stuff, and I'm going to actually get into some other things on this deal with the magnetism. I have studied this a lot, but I'll tell you the truth. I was confused about this north-south deal. I want to repeat this again. When the magnetic therapy people talk, they just say the word north, they're talking about biological north, which is a different thing from magnetic north. And they just, I don't know why they do this. Maybe they do this so that, they keep their secrets or something of their magic secrets here, whatever the hell they're doing. I don't know why they came up with those crazy terms, but You want to really think of it as positive and negative magnetic force. And what you generally want to always have against the animal, and not do it to excess, but if you have a problem with an aggressive dog, you might want to try this deal. You want to find a negative side of the magnet. That red pointer is actually positive magnetism. It will point to the negative side of a magnet. And the negative side of the magnet is what they use in magnetic therapy, according to all the magnetic therapists, pretty much almost all the time. And there's a few exceptions to those cases, but pretty much all the time. But you definitely, if you want to make a dog that's overly aggressive and attempt to make it more docile and intelligent and listen to your commands, you definitely want to use the negative side of the magnet toward the body. And you could try like taking one little nitty magnet or a couple of them and stick them in the dog bed, like sewed in there so they don't flip over underneath the cloth, and make sure the negative side is facing the body of the animal. Now again, just to, if you want to go on Soda Instruments site and you want to look and you can buy one of the products or whatever, they'll explain it right here. But you see this minus sign? It's geographic bio north or magnetic south pole is the negative energy, and they mark it on their paddles north. That's the side you want to use. So anyway, just want to say this because I think a lot of people want dogs like this. They want happy, friendly dogs that don't bite them, and they listen to what they're smart, and their ears perk up, and they listen to their owners, and that's usually what people want. And they don't want big dumb dogs that are going to go biting them at some inopportune time or something. I know there's a few people that have that, but if you play around with this stuff, this magic, it's almost like magic, but it's actually the laws of nature. If you play around with this and you think you're playing with fire, if you're playing with this game the wrong way, it can come back to bite you literally. Literally. Some people, sometimes they go for these things and they say, sometimes people say, well, I just want to have an aggressive dog, but you're playing with games if you're doing that. I mean, I just can't change the world on those type of people, because those are the kind of people that just seem to gravitate to that, and you always have some. But normally, in most cases, most people want a friendly, happy dog that's intelligent and will listen to commands and will live a long time. So, in magnetic therapy side is the negative side of the magnet. And hopefully I explained that enough. And if you want to look at Soda Instruments' website, they'll explain it better. And they also have devices. I don't sell for them, so there's no link or nothing. But you can also even just get a plain magnet. But if you get a plain magnet, you got to make sure you got the correct side you're using. And I think I explained that well enough. The red pointer on a compass will point to the negative face of the magnet, and the negative face of the magnet is generally almost always used for magnetic therapy. Okay? Anyway, I thought this is cool because nobody's thinking of this deal. This is thinking outside the box big time, and it may be a cheap fix for a lot of people that have problems with their little pups, man. You never know.